Kersner with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute, and we're excited to have you here for our second workshop in the Social Impact Changemaker Challenge series, developing impactful and innovative solutions to social impact problems. And we are thrilled to have as our guest speaker and resident expert, Ms. Marilyn Anthony, who is a former full-time faculty here at Fox, more recently an adjunct, a good friend, and a true social entrepreneur, going back to her days running White Dog Cafe. Am I correct, Marilyn?
You're right.
Okay. And now being a ghostwriter on a number of autobiographies of successful entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, and investors. So we're thrilled to have Marilyn. It is an honor, and you will really enjoy and learn a lot from today's session. Before we jump in, I just want to give a couple reminders about the Changemaker Challenge. We have our final upcoming workshop a week from tonight, which is basically financing for profit and nonprofit entities focused on social impact. So you could scan that QR code and sign up. And then we also have mentoring. So you'll receive individual mentoring from social entrepreneurship experts January 29th. We'll be doing that, I believe, from 4 to 6:30, Emily, is that correct? I'll assume yes.
From 5 to 6:30.
5 to 6:30, okay, thank you. So if you scan that code, you could sign up for individualized mentoring and review of your potential submissions. And then the submission deadline for entering the Changemaker Challenge is January 31st at 11:59 p.m. I strongly encourage you to enter. It takes maybe hour and a half to complete the submission form. Think about a social issue you are passionate about, and then any preliminary idea you have for how to address that issue that is different from what is being done today. So we're just looking for preliminary ideas. You will get feedback from judges, and if you are selected as a finalist, you have a chance to win cash prizes on a live pitch event on February 28th. So please enter. Do not worry about any idea not being worthy. If you have an idea and you have passion, it is definitely worth entering the competition. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our honored guest speaker, Marilyn Anthony.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Emily, for your support here. So before I jump into the agenda, I want to just kind of give you a really broad overview of the approach that we're going to take tonight. So first of all, welcome to the second in a series of workshops that are really intended to help you prepare for the Changemaker Challenge. I have been lucky to be involved as a coach and a judge for the Changemaker Challenge several times, and it's always inspiring to see the issues and the social problems that participants are determined to solve. In the workshop this evening, it's really designed to challenge you to think deeply and widely, critically, creatively, and perhaps most importantly of all, collaboratively about the problem. What I've heard over and over again from successful entrepreneurs and from experienced investors is that the founders who truly understand the problem they are tackling are the ones most likely to find an effective solution. A lot of times we think, oh, I know the problem, and we jump to brainstorming on all the solutions. And I'm really going to encourage you to stay on the problem till you really, really understand it. So let's dive in and begin. And we're going to start at the beginning. What is the problem? That's what we're going to talk about today. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? Not yet, Emily. If you'll just go back to that, thank you. We're going to talk about and look at what's the problem, and we're going to work on, do a little practice on even identifying problems, describing them, defining them, being able to capture the essence of the problem. We'll also spend a little time on the 3 whys. You might be familiar with that approach. A mindset of being open to new perspectives, going into any problem-solving situation thinking you've got the answer or there's one answer is far too limiting. Frugal innovation as a way to support your initial efforts. The goal of moving whatever entity, organization, enterprise you start, moving from a linear way of operating to a more circular, environmentally and economically promoting method of operating, creating value. What does that mean? And then planning to pivot, because pivot is an essential part of the evolution of any business. So now we'll go on to the next slide. So idea versus opportunity. So just, a show of hands here. If you want to pop your hands up or even talk, that's fine too. How many of you had an idea today? I had a few. But is an idea an opportunity? An idea might be based on a random thought, something you were researching, an experience you had. And it's really easy to confuse an idea, or you might even think of like, it's a good idea with an opportunity. But just because you've come up with something that you think is cool or new or smart, doesn't mean anyone wants it or will care about it. An idea is just a thought. An opportunity means there's real need and real people who will get behind and support your efforts. An opportunity, a problem, means that there is demand, there is need. We'll go on to the next slide. So we want to start out by asking you to identify problems. And this is a familiar object. You've seen these, I'm sure. You may have had one at some point. This water bottle was designed to solve a particular set of problems. We were hoping to be able to use a whiteboard. We may not be able to do that, so I'm going to ask you to just put in the chat. When the developer was thinking about this, what problems was this product designed to solve? So just put in the chat, first thing you think about, what problems are being addressed by this water bottle? Thirst, okay. What else do we have? Plastic pollution, yep. Easy water access on the go, absolutely. So mobility, portable water. What else? Water access, yeah. What else does using your own accessibility? Reusable alternative to single use, right? Avoid disposable, so plastic waste reduction. Comfort, yeah. Reusable. Easily visible. Don't have to open the lid of the bottle to drink. It has a straw that makes it accessible, attaches to a belt for hiking, great. Anything about, are there any economic advantages to using a water bottle? Any financial advantages to using a water bottle? Anybody? Cost effective, save on buying plastic. Bottled water is more expensive, right? Cheaper than buying, absolutely. You can also customize it. I mean, we're focusing on water, but you can put any number of beverages in that container, right? not hot ones ideally, but flavored drinks, smoothies, whatever, right? Great. Okay, you've got the idea. This was a specific set of problems that the designer set out to solve. Avoiding waste of water, perfect. Yeah, that's great. We have a lot of super good ideas here. So what I want you to begin focusing on is, what are my problems? And typically there's not one, right? So there's not a question of like, okay, plastic in the ocean is a problem. There's a whole set of problems around that. So let's go on to the next slide. As you begin to think about a problem, it's really, really helpful to break it into manageable parts. Because let's face it, probably any of the problems you're motivated to solve are really complicated. So with this water bottle, for instance, what happens when you look at it as a set of elements, 3 parts? It's got a cap, it's got a body, it's got a straw. When you break a problem down into its component pieces, how might that change the way you see the possibilities for improvement? That's a question. So in the chat, if you think about it as parts, how does that change your thought process? I'm waiting for the first person to come up with their thought. How does it change the way you might solve a problem when you break it into pieces? It's large. You can see how each part aids in solving the problem. Great. Look at durability, makes it more manageable. Right. Maybe you're able to, the cap can definitely be improved. I agree. Gross. If you look at the individual pieces, you're able to analyze and isolate. Yes, this is great. Breaking into parts allows multiple innovations. Each part has a function, so you can go deeper on each part than if you just looked at it in its entirety. So lodge that in your mind. Really start thinking about, what are the pieces, what are the components, what are the elements that all add up to this one big problem. Awesome. Okay. All right, now you're primed. We'll go to the next slide. Because you're all thinking problems. Here's where the value piece comes in. Who is your target user? It is not worth your time to design a solution that doesn't have an end user in mind. You might think something is great and not find another person who shares that. So if you want to solve a problem, you need to approach the process with empathy, thinking about putting yourself in the point of view of the person who's going to use it. So we're going to put you into groups, randomly assign you into groups that will represent a distant cyclist, a mother who has young children, a climate change activist group. All of them are potential users of this bottle, but they have specific problems or needs that are different from each other. Some might be the same, some will be different. We're going to put you in your teams, give you a few minutes to identify, if you're a cyclist, what are your specific problems? If you're in a group with you're the mom with kids, what are your specific problems? The climate change activist, what are your specifics? How does knowing this change your solutions? And what are some of the solutions you're going to come up with for your user group? Everybody got the assignment? We're good? Okay. Emily's going to put you all into groups. I'm going to try to move around among the groups and just listen to your conversation. We're just going to take a few minutes for this. Okay? That's your challenge. So I left that one group, but I can't get into any other groups.
I was noticing that I can move you to a specific group, and so
Yeah,
that group only had one other person. Did you want me to move her to
that would be great. I tried to do it through the chat, but it wouldn't let me chat to just you. It just would let me chat to everyone.
I'm gonna move her to this one. Okay, that actually works out because they're oh good, she moved. There was only 2 people in another one.
Great. Okay. So put me anywhere. And then how can I move from group to group? Like, I just asked to leave.
I don't think there's a way, and I don't know if
Well, just put me anywhere. And I'll come back to this and then you'll
yeah, I'll give you like 2 minutes each, and then I'll move you.
Like 30 seconds.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then I will do that. All right, I'm moving you now.
Okay, thanks.
Did that move you?
No.
No, I don't know.
And I don't even see breakout rooms in my.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll move you now.
Oh, you moved her? Okay.
Keeps muting me too. How annoying. Okay, that group was great. They actually have a long distance cyclist in that group. So where else can I go?
You're all muted.
I just moved you to another distance cyclist group. Do you see that?
Not yet.
All right.
I didn't get a message to like join it.
How'd you get back here?
I left the group.
Oh,
If I
okay.
leave the group, it puts me back in Maine.
Oh, then we'll just do that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you see the?
Yeah, now I see mom with young kids.
Okay. Yes. Alan, I'm already promoting freelancing for you. Sorry, working for yourself.
Where, in the chat?
No, in Facebook.
Oh, look at you.
I need to figure out what our website is. Like,
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, sorry. Oh, what happened? I'm on my monitor, so I don't have my camera on. Hello. I guess. So what? Oh, they're just in groups right now. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to go in a group?
Oh, it's okay. I'll hang out. I'll hang on.
yeah, I was gonna say they're probably gonna come back any minute.
Yeah.
So
Marilyn,
I'm back. Is there one more group I could pop into?
Yeah, you said you were just in Moms with Kids,
Yeah,
and you were in the cycling one before?
yeah, and I've been in one climate, the one Livia was in that one by herself.
So there's only one other climate group, okay.
Put me in any group I wasn't in before, I don't care.
I'll move you to Maryland. Where'd you go? Choose to this one. I think you weren't in there. And then after this one, we'll
Bring them all back.
breakout rooms. Yeah.
what's new and exciting, Marissa?
Sorry. Like, what was that?
I said, what's new and exciting?
Oh gosh, just plugging, trying to get these courses, troubleshooting all the stuff that comes out in the beginning of the semester,
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate these workshops. It's really, creating a different way of thinking about things. It's really good.
Good. Good,
Yeah.
good, good. I'm gonna go mute myself, Emily, all right?
Emily, do we have everybody back?
Yes, we do.
Super. All right. Hey, listen, well done, group. That was super fun dropping in and hearing what you're thinking about and talking to each other. You really got it. It's like I need to think about the experience that this person, this user has. It's different from mine. I have to not think about what I want, what I need. I really need to think about my user. So keep that mindset with you as we move forward, and certainly as you're thinking about the problem that you want to address through the Changemaker Challenge. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, one last participatory thing here. Here's a famous quote. Necessity is the mother of invention. You, I hope, have heard this quote before. My question, and no Googling the answer because you have to just immediately respond. Who was the first person to say this? So we have a poll here that Emily's going to launch, and there are 4 possible answers. So go ahead and launch. Who is the first person to say necessity is the mother of invention? Okay, we're almost there. We have a few more people to answer. Yeah. Don't Google it. Just go with your gut. All right, do we think we got everybody? Yeah. You want to close the poll? Oh, we have one more. Okay. So, all right, if you said Frank Zappa, you have a great sense of humor and a command of pop culture, because of course Frank Zappa formed the band The Mothers of Invention, but he didn't invent that phrase. Torsten Veblen, I see we have a very small percentage here because understandably, most of you are probably saying, who the heck is Torsten Veblen? He was an American economist and sociologist. He was working in the beginning of the 20th century. He actually died, I think, in 1929. But he was the economist and sociologist who coined the expression conspicuous consumption. I'm sure you've heard that. However, he was not the first to say necessity is the mother of invention. He actually inverted it and said that invention is the mother of necessity. That's what leads to conspicuous consumption. New things are made, we're convinced that we need them, although we don't. And so we overconsume. Now, many of you thought Steve Jobs. In fact, the majority of you thought Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs famously said, Apple makes products before people know they need them. So he was really in the Thorsten Veblen camp, invention creating necessity. Really, the right answer is Plato, a Greek philosopher in the 4th century BC, who recognized that when there's need, that's demand. So necessity will lead to invention. We have a problem we have to solve. We're missing something. There's a gap we need to fill. Necessity, need, demand is the basis of true market forces. There are plenty of people who will say, oh, well, if you build it, they will come. But there are, and I'm sure you can think of these, lots and lots of failed businesses that demonstrate that that's rarely true. So as you're thinking about any enterprise, any organization, system, business you're going to form, identifying necessity, real need, is the first step. So we can close the poll. Thanks very much for that, Frank Zappa fans. And we're going to move on to the next slide. So I mentioned at the beginning that a good place to start your journey is answering the 3 whys. And these are really considered to be sort of a baseline acid test of for any entrepreneur. And there's 3 questions that on the face of it seem quite simple. But if you can answer these in a convincing and compelling way, you have a pitch deck, right? You have your elevator pitch, and that is, who needs this product or service? So where's the demand? Who is your target group? Who's your user group? Who's your market? Who's your audience? Who needs this product or service specifically? And along with that, of course, is sizing the market. Are we talking about 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, one country, a global entity? What are we talking about here? So who and size of market, and what is the need? Why now? Any honest entrepreneur will tell you that luck always plays some role in their success, because there are forces that we can't control. There are some things we can control. Timing is generally not one of them. So why now? Why do you feel this is a good time for your enterprise to be launched? what's going on in society, in your community, in the world, in the environment, wherever, that makes it obvious that the need is for now. And finally, why you? Why me? What is it about me that makes me uniquely positioned to be able to deliver this product or service now? Okay, next slide. So those are, food for thought. As you go along this process, and I hope you experience this just working in the, excuse me, in the breakouts briefly, solutions are rarely perfect the first time. What iteration are we on of the iPhone now? 16, right? Some people would say, hey, you could have stopped at 1, but it's a constant process of looking to your users, the actual use, and over time, how technology changes, resources become available, how you can improve your product or service. Experimentation is always a part of evolution and improvement and advancement. You don't have to do this on your own. You shouldn't try to do it on your own. The mindset that is most successful is constantly getting feedback, qualified feedback. So people who are in a position to use and evaluate your product, not just your friends, they're going to tell you you're great, but you're looking for critical, analytical, insightful input about your product. And don't get attached to any one idea. Ideas come and go. You're really looking for as many initially as possible, and then you begin to test them with users to identify what the best ones are. Okay, we'll move on now. So the road to solutions is paved with experiments. The scientific method is really about elimination. You say, I think this will work. Oh, it didn't. I think this will work. Oh, it didn't. So it's constant generation of ideas through a process of divergent thinking, where you're really opening your mind to all the possibilities. And once again, I hope you felt a little bit of that in our brief breakout, because optimum solutions only will be arrived at after a period of intense research, scrutiny, testing, experimentation, iteration. Next. So divergent thinking, what does that mean exactly? And you can see different quadrants happening here. On to the next. You want to take the road that's not the heavily traveled one, not the same old business as usual. So try looking in a different direction, going in a different direction, not following the pack. And Alan mentioned this at the beginning. A really important part of the Changemaker Challenge is learning who's already out there trying to solve this problem, because you don't just want to repeat what they've done. What's the point of that? You're looking for a new direction, a new approach. Go ahead, Emily. So divergent thinking, it's a concept that's based on certain principles and has preconditions. The principles are, this is a lot of idea generation. It's, throwing the spaghetti against the wall, what's going to stick? No judgment, no preconceptions, really open mind, think anything is possible, because that's where creativity, that's where invention is found, not in the same old, same old. So the preconditions are really to create an environment that values and appreciates and respects others' opinions, all opinions. Take risks and don't be afraid to say something that's stupid or sounds ridiculous or would never work. Experimentation is all about failing, but if you don't try it, then you never will know. So failure is not punished. It's actually encouraged as part of the experimentation process. We'll go on to the next slide. So you can say that there are different personalities involved in creativity, and I'm sure you felt this when you've tried to write something or play music or do something creative, some kind of artwork. you know, the warriors, the ones who are going to just charge in and my way or the highway, the judge who's very critical, but the artist or explorer who are more willing to go where nobody's gone before. And that's where the sweet spot is for entrepreneurs. Thinking out of the box, going in a direction that hasn't already been heavily explored. Next. Find your expertise. This is a really important one. Because the chances are you're drawn to a problem because it relates in some way to your life. You've had some experience with it, you know someone who's experienced it, or perhaps not. It's just something that you've encountered or read about or have heard about. Before you get too far along, get to know as much as you can about that area. And, you know, this is saying you get to know an area very well, either through personal experience or education, and capitalize on your knowledge. But you don't have to do this alone. There are advisors, there are mentors, there are teachers, there are researchers, there are experts in the field, and any number of, there are potential customers, there are partners, and eventually even employees, all who can feed into your knowledge base. And the more open and encouraging you are about that, the faster you will develop your own expertise. You don't want to outsource everything. You really need to understand thoroughly the problem in order to then be able to devise the solutions. Rarely do founders do anything totally on their own. This whole bootstrapping thing is a myth. They rely on learning as much as they can from people who know more than they do, who are better at something than they are. You can't possibly know everything or be good at everything. So surround yourself with people who are more knowledgeable and who are better at things. And the remarkable thing is, particularly for students, people want to help you. So if you are respectful in your ask and you are clear in your ask, most people really believe it's their obligation, their duty. They want to pay it forward. They want to help someone because somebody helped them. So don't hesitate to ask for help. Next, Emily. So here's an example of a Temple grad, Jared Cannon, who is a great example of someone who was able to blend their expertise as a chef, their training as a chef, with their education as an entrepreneur to bring those things together and create a unique, novel innovation in delicious, healthy local food with low waste impact because it's a circular system. So Simply Good Jars is the brainchild of someone who brought together their interest in healthy eating and delicious food, and also business principles that they gained at Temple as students. Next. Another example of a Temple grad who went where her passion and interest lay is Natasha Graves, who formed this business, Vacayability, based on the fact that she loved to travel and recognized that while there's all sorts of travel information out there, there was really virtually nothing that gave any insights to travelers who had disabilities. And so she married those two insights and passions, a love of travel and a sensitivity and need for information about accessibility, into a viable site. Next. There's also, and this is a little bit further along, you won't be expected to know this for your initial participation in the Changemaker Challenge, but from the beginning, you want to be thinking about your business model. Very often when I was teaching social entrepreneurship, students immediately assumed they should be a nonprofit. And underlying that assumption was the idea that if you're a nonprofit, people will give you money. So you don't have to worry about revenue. You don't have to worry about generating income. because people will give you money and then you spend it on whatever the problem is you're trying to solve. Nonprofits are, I mean, I run a nonprofit, I believe in nonprofits, but I am equally or perhaps more passionate about revenue generating entities for a lot of reasons. But as you are thinking about your business model, you want to think about, where does the money come from? Because as a former boss of mine used to say, no money, no mission, right? If you don't have the resources, you're not going to be able to accomplish your goals. So we're going to look at a couple of models here, just very briefly, the giveaway model and revenue generating models. So Emily, the next slide, please. This is a famous one, right? And I'm not sure about this, but I would say that Tom's was perhaps the earliest example of a buy one, give one. And it just blew up, right? I mean, people were so excited about the possibility that their buying a pair of shoes enabled someone else to have a pair of shoes. And this business has been around for quite a while. It's grown tremendously. It's still there. You can see by the photo here how the product line has evolved and become much more diverse. So that's a model that maybe is not as popular as it once was, because the market, like everything else, got saturated with buy one, give one, but it's still viable. So you just want to think about that as a possibility. Your customers are making a contribution. That's fine. You can go to the next one. This is a different model, and Brian Linton is another Temple grad, not from the business school. I think he was a psych major, but Brian started United by Blue. You might know this clothing business. It is based in Philadelphia. And Brian came to this because he grew up with a deep fascination in fish, and particularly ocean fish, and became very concerned about the degradation of water, of the oceans around the globe, and had this idea that he wanted to start a company where every product that people bought would enable the company to take 1 pound of trash out of a waterway or water system or near a body of water. And you can see here they do an annual report. This is from a recent report, 5 million pounds of trash removed. And so he's not giving away clothes. Your purchase of clothes is funding a mission that's important to him, but also important to his customers. And we'll talk about this briefly again later on, but partnership, there's tremendous value in partnering with other businesses. And so United by Blue fairly recently formed a partnership with Target, so that United by Blue has their own stores, but now they're also selling some of their products in Target. So reaching a very different audience, a much bigger audience in a more impactful way. We'll go on to the next slide. Philabundance. Now, this is a nonprofit, and we may have the founder of Philabundance on this in this workshop with us tonight, Pam Rainey Lawler. And their business model has evolved over time, and you can see that within the operations that they run, they've created revenue generating enterprises. So they are collecting and processing food donations and giving food away. I mean, their primary goal is to get nutritious food to people who need it. But they are generating their own revenue through catering events, renting out space, retailing products that they make through their culinary training program. So it's evolved to address a number of needs, and to be, of course, they still take donations and look for grants, but they also have ways to generate money by their own activities, which make their organization even more robust and stable. Next slide. Frugal innovation. This is a popular, you might say lean startup. Frugal innovation is a popular concept and really, really useful for any business that's starting, especially if you're trying to serve low-income customers. And what we mean by frugal innovation is really pretty basic. It's like, what is the most you can do at the lowest cost? How much can you find that is free or virtually free? And that might be expertise, it might be material, it might be space, it might be labor. So how do you conserve your resources, limit risk and waste, especially in the early stages of your company? Next. So there are a number of principles that support this concept of frugal innovation. There's a YouTube video here. You can find out more about it. But, it starts with opportunity. And if something's hard to do, then chances are most people aren't trying to do it. So, where's the thing that needs to be done, is hard to do, and how can you figure out how to crack that? Starting with do more with less. So what's available to me? What resources can I pull together? And you have to be super creative about that. Looking for people, looking for materials, looking for assistance. Think and act flexibly. It's surprising if you think way beyond your network, like what else might be out there? Who might be able to point me in the direction where I can find something else? Keep it simple. Don't get hung up on, you might have heard the expression, perfection is the enemy of the good. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. It has to deliver value. Include the margin. Like, don't think about, don't have tunnel vision. Think more inclusively. Follow your heart, because you need to believe in this if you're going to make it work. And part of following your heart is that empathy for everything involved in creating your business. Next. Also, moving from linear to circular, we're beginning to hear a lot more about circularity. That might be a new concept for you, but basically, if you think about a straight line versus a circle, you can feel the difference, right? Like the straight line just keeps going. The circle comes back around on itself. It's conserving, whereas the line just seems to keep spending. So let's go to the next slide. Historically, our economy has been based on a very linear business model, and this is what it looks like. There's a supplier who provides materials, they go into, and there's waste there. The manufacturer makes things, and there's waste there, and it just gets dumped. They go to a distributor who then ships it around, and there's going to be waste there. Retailer doesn't sell everything that they have, and so there's waste there. And us as consumers, we all know we buy things, we use them, we throw them out. So waste all along the chain. And that's how we end up in the situation we are in today with global landfills. Next. One of the ways that frugal innovators have gotten really creative is looking at other people's waste to find their resource. So plastic, I mean, for generations, we've just been throwing it out, but as we've seen, people have figured out, hey, I can shred up bottles and they can be reformed. They can be made into all different kinds of things, not just more plastic bottles, clothing, all sorts of things. So looking for something that was junk, was waste, and turning it into something that has value is the process. Next. And we just have some examples here. This from my friend Carrie Slade. Here's a woman who took advantage of that, right? Saw tons and tons of plastic waste, which she got for free because it was somebody's trash. And then obviously with, great deal of sophistication, turned these into, through hydraulics, usable material, alternative building material. So taking something out of the waste stream, putting it into the construction, affordable construction, and she's turning out 1,500 bricks a day, 20 metric tons of plastic since the company was produced, making an affordable product, and also providing living wage employment for more than 100 people in her community. Next. Another example here of cigarette butts, like who would think that there was any value in cigarette butts? But TerraCycle, partnering with Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company, makes plastic pellets. Ash and tobacco get composted. So looking for something that has no value and figuring out how can we restore value to that by repurposing it. Next. And I've mentioned this term a couple of times, creating real value. Value is not about what something costs. Value is about what it does for the user. So customers only pay for something that delivers positive impact or improvement for them, right? So I'm sure there are many things that you see advertised and you think, oh, who would ever pay X number of dollars for that? That thing has no value to you. What you're looking for is the solution that does provide value for your target user, your end user group. Next. So here we have an example of sustainable style. Kimberly McGlon, Dr. Kimberly McGlon had a career in education, but really became involved in a series of, talk about complex problems, a social justice activist who was concerned about incarceration, the difficulty of re-entry, the really sort of wage slave mentality of offshoring clothing, the environmental catastrophe that's fast fashion, and decided to try to address all of those things by creating a clothing company built on premises of social justice and sustainability. Her target audience are people who care about that. So really understanding how to communicate that message and build a transparent business model that addresses all those things. Next. Ray's reusables, another approach. Ray Daly was a woman who worked for many years for Whole Foods, and through Whole Foods really learned about composting and recycling and plastic waste, and became very concerned about the growing levels of plastic in our environment. So I'm putting her up here, and there's a link to her website. There's also, I wrote an article about her recently because I think it's a really cool concept. She, in her evolution to become an entrepreneur, basically went through these steps that we're talking about. What was her problem statement? That there are massive levels of plastic waste. She can go on to enumerate that and say, there's 8.3 billion pounds of plastic produced in 2019 alone. In 1 year, 8.3 billion pounds of plastic, and only about 9% of that gets recycled. Those numbers will get people's attention. So that was her problem. What can I do to ensure that less plastic goes into that waste stream to start with? The impact that she wanted to have was keeping plastics out of landfills and also addressing the guilt that we as consumers feel when we're throwing plastic out, just throwing it in the trash, single-use plastic. Her solution was to eliminate excess packaging by offering refilling options for household basics. So detergent, deodorant, cleaning solutions, body lotion, bath soap, all kinds of things like that that can go back into their original containers or repurposed containers. Her frugal innovation was that before she opened a store and went to a lot of overhead, she bought a van, outfitted it with shelving, and drove around to farmers markets to test this idea. Would people want to bring their own containers or purchase containers from her and refill them with these household products? So she took her idea to likely target markets, right? People who were already shopping local, buying fresh and organic, bringing their own bags to the market, and was encouraged through the great results that she saw there to then pivot and start a bricks and mortar location, which she selectively chose her neighborhood. I think she's in Fishtown or Old City, Northern Liberties. Next. What Ray Daly did on a small scale, Tom Zaki has done on a global scale. Taken the idea of excess packaging and changed the way common household products are packaged by storing them, selling them, and distributing them in reusable containers. And there's a YouTube you can watch about that. If you don't know him already, certainly go on the website. We'll look at the next slide. This is one of the ways that he structured his business model, that to encourage people to reuse the bottles, they pay a deposit. So you can buy the Clorox wipes for $5.49, but if you pay a $10 deposit, but you get that back when you return the container. So he's built in an incentive to make sure that people take that extra step, which is a little inconvenient, but saves them money. So it's built into the business model. And we'll go to the next slide. And I mentioned earlier the power of partnerships. He knew that this is only going to work if I have brands that people want to buy in places that they want to buy them, who will partner with me and design reusable packaging for their products. And so it didn't happen overnight, but look at the array of household brand name recognizable products that they've been able to partner with. Really, really powerful. And so once again, when you're thinking about your enterprise, who is out there with a bigger market, bigger resources, who I can partner with, who will be able to help me, and I am also helping them. All of these companies get to claim their own contribution to sustainability because they partnered with Loop. Next. Pivoting. So this is the final point that we're really going to make tonight, and you probably heard about pivoting, but pivoting means changing your business as you learn more about it. And the fact is that no business continues to be successful if it is not always learning and refining. There's no once and done, there's no set it and forget it. So one of the cautions, I guess, for entrepreneurs is it might get easier, but it's never done, because the market is always changing, your users are always changing, life is always changing. Life is about change, and embracing that, celebrating that, being prepared for that, and being open to that is what will enable you to have a organization, an entity, a business that grows, evolves, and thrives over time. Next. Roar for Good is an amazing example. And once again, we have a Temple grad here, Yasmin Mustafa, who had this idea that she wanted to create a device that would be protection. So it was a personal device you would wear, and particularly for women. But if you felt like you were in an unsafe situation or threatened or whatever, you would press this button. It would, be a signal to call for help. What she found was that was individual customers. I would have to sell one-on-one to individual customers. And that's really hard, you know, to get people's attention, to acquire a customer. It's very expensive, the acquisition cost for customers. And also, people tend not to think about emergencies until they're in one. So through a great deal of thought, experimentation, research, she pivoted to a workplace panic button system for hotels and businesses to ensure that their staff, particularly housekeeping, who are often working solo, can feel safe and will be safe and protected because they have this alert system. So now she has businesses buying from her in bulk as opposed to individual customers, is still serving the need that she originally set out to do, which is providing personal safety. So a great example of a dramatic pivot that really reinvigorated her company. Next slide. So to recap, because this has been a lot of me talking and I appreciate you staying with me through this, but just to recap, here's what I want to leave you with as you're preparing your own Changemaker challenge. Finding the best solution for a real problem starts with an idea. You think you see something, but then you validate the problem. And is what I'm seeing seen by anybody else? Are there people who care about this? How do I know? And what is it specifically that they care about? What problems do they have? And what are the elements of those problems? Think about impact. If I solve this problem, forget about how. If I solve it, what difference is that going to make? What measurable, demonstrable metric of success will I have? Does that mean, for instance, you want some educational innovation? Well, I'm going to move the graduation, the retention rate in high schools from 74% to 85%. There has to be something that can be measured, that can be shown, that can be demonstrated, because that's what your supporters, your investors, your customers are going to look for, real impact. Size the market. As we just saw with Roar for Good, if your market is individuals, it's really hard to reach them. If you're targeting hotels, suddenly you've got a much bigger market. There is nothing wrong with going for a niche market. Small business is the lifeblood of our economy. So don't think you have to go global. Solve something that you can get your arms around for an audience that you can address. Don't go, think you have to go big or go home. I don't believe that at all. But understand what the size of the market is. Answer your 3 whys. Who has this need for the product or service? Why now? And why me? Seek as much input as you can get to help you refine your understanding of the problem, and constantly commit to iteration. And finally, be bold and always do good. One more slide, I think. I mentioned circularity. There is a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia called Circular Philadelphia. I'm a founding board member, and we are all about making policy changes to promote circular economy and circular businesses operating in Philadelphia. I encourage you to learn more about our work. You can check us out on the website, become a member, come to some of our cool events, and learn more about how to go circular. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And I think we have one more slide here for any questions. And I guess just in the chat, Emily, or do you have a Q&A set up?
In the chat, or people can unmute themselves and ask questions.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, unmute yourselves. Love that.
I don't have a question thought up yet, but I'd just like to thank you for presenting. It was amazing.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very sweet of you. And good luck to you.
I would just like to thank you as well. I mean, the presentation was phenomenal, and I'm super motivated now, and just want to go home and get to work.
All right. I love to hear that. Go do it.
I second that, Marilyn. It was exceptional. Every question I had, you answered as we were going along, so I don't have any questions at this point. It was dynamic. I just have to say that me and my husband, he's on the call. We have a private practice and we're looking to scale. So everything you were seeing, I was just like soaking it up. This is amazing.
Great,
Yeah, so I do
great.
have to jump off. Thank
All
you.
right, good
Bye-bye.
luck to you. Thank you so much.
No question, but I will say I really appreciated the water bottle exercise.
Cool.
Thinking about the question of, what is the actual problem I'm solving? It almost kind of got me going down a different thought pattern of even if I know what the problem is it that I'm trying to fix the problem or create an innovative solution that addresses a component of the problem? And so I think like even just kind of sitting with that and just kind of challenging myself to like, okay, how can we continue to narrow the focus? Is it that I'm trying to redesign the entire water bottle or just come up with a better design for the cap? I think like just thinking about the problem in particular that I've been ideating around, which pertains to housing for student parents in higher education. There's a few different levels to that problem.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, which part of the problem then am I trying to fix?
Yep.
Especially because it's so deeply systemic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that last question that you offered of, if I solve this problem, what measurable difference is it going to make? I think that is a good place for me to start backwards. It's like, okay, what is that thing that I want to be able to say we solved?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so what does that mean for what this work looks like, what this mission looks like? So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Is Sarita, is that who? If you can do that, if you can clearly articulate the problem and you can clearly articulate your vision for impact, people will support it. It's like they don't really care so much how you're going to do it at that point. They want to know, what is it? Who's going to benefit? I want to be part of that. So it sounds crazy, but having a clear understanding of the problem and what you envision the impact will actually help you get to the solution. A lot of times people go right to the solution and they're thinking, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that. And they're not thinking, well, what difference is that going to make? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear it set you in a different direction. I hope it's a very productive direction, and I'm thrilled that you're willing to let your mind go, so that's great. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so Emily, we have a couple more slides to wrap. Okay, so first, Marilyn, thank you very much. Obviously, from the unsolicited and spontaneous comments you got, the attendees loved what you said and what you took them through. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So again, as you're thinking about your ideas, as you're ideating or refining based on what Marilyn has shared, scan the code, submit by January 31st at 11:59 p.m. Before that time, if we go to the next slide. Okay, we have another workshop a week from tonight, which will talk about social impact investors, for-profits. If you are dedicated to a nonprofit, how to start that. And then again, a great opportunity to get some customized mentoring with experts on your ideas, or to help you just think about issues that you're very passionate about. So please take advantage of those opportunities. Next.